Hey, what's up, everybody? The VC here coming at you with another video about anything and everything. Nothing's off the table. Always off the cuff. Anything can be flying off the handle at any given time. The VC here. It's about common sense. Subscribe, whether you're on YouTube or follow me on Rumble. Alright, simple as that. So without further ado, let's go take a look around. I think it'll be a kind of a around the horn deal today. So much shit to cover, and I always like to allot a slot, in order to, cover a lot of things that are going on. All right, so let's see here. Judge suspended after arrest for helping migrant evade ICE. So another judge was arrested. This is like a third one now that I'm aware of. I'm not sure of any other judges, but this is a third one now that I've seen. Yeah, like a Latino dude judge from New Mexico, I believe. Then you have that fat chick from Wisconsin. And now you have this one here. I don't know where she's from. I guess we could look to see where she's from.
Another judicial pushback against President Trump's immigration crackdown. This comes after dozens were arrested in January during Border Patrol's Operation Return to Sender, where agents rounded up people determined to have entered who were determined to have entered the country illegally. Yesterday, California District Judge Jennifer Thurston demanded CBP agents cannot arrest suspected illegal migrants without a warrant or reason to believe the person is a flight risk before they can get one.
Also in the courtroom out of Wisconsin, the state Supreme Court temporarily suspending a judge charged with obstruction of justice. Hannah Dugan is the judge, arrested after allegedly helping an illegal immigrant evade arrest. Garrett Tenney's live with the latest on the developments today. Garrett, what you find out?
Yeah, well, Bill, the timing of this move to relieve Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan of her duties is notable, given that it took the state Supreme Court more than 4 days to make this decision. Also, given that the judge is facing federal charges for obstruction, which is a felony. And while she is presumed innocent until proven guilty, under Wisconsin state law, you legally can't hold public office if you've been convicted of a felony.
Wisconsin would be woke.
It is also notable that the High Court did not include in its order that Judge Dugan's salary be withheld while she is on administrative leave, meaning she will continue to receive her $174,000 salary while her own court case plays out.
But I guess it is.
Despite that, her legal team released a statement saying, "We are disappointed that the court acted in unilateral fashion. We continue to assert Judge Dugan's innocence and look forward to her vindication in court."
That she helped an illegal go out the back door of the courthouse to evade arrest.
The chief judge of Milwaukee Circuit Court says other judges are shaken by the manner in which Dugan was arrested at the courthouse in her robes, and says he's working on a new policy laying out when and where federal agents can make arrests.
What,
in a perfect world,
we're at the end of the workday when they come walking out. Get out of here, man. If you don't commit nothing, then you got nothing to worry about. But if you're gonna do that shit and they come in, they're not gonna wait around and say, okay, we'll just wait till she, clocks out. No, we're gonna get you on the spot so you don't evade arrest as well. Fuck out of here.
We would have the opportunity to have a courthouse where people would never have to worry about coming there for their activities. But the reality is there are legal parameters which allow the government to effectuate warrants, and we're not going to interfere with that.
It also appears Judge Dugan is gearing up to vigorously fight the charges against her with an all-star legal team. Our Milwaukee Fox affiliate reports former U.S. Solicitor General Paul Clement has joined Dugan's defense team. Clement, who served under former President George W. Bush, was described as a LeBron James of lawyers by Bloomberg Law and has argued more than 100 cases before the U.S. Supreme Court. A grand jury will now hear Judge Dugan's case and decide if this is going to move on to trial. Her next court.
I mean, there's people that believe that LeBron James, as great as he is not the greatest of all time either, right? So saying it doesn't matter.
Date is May 15th.
All right, that's not the end of it. Thank you, Garrett.
All right, whatever. All right. So you have that. Here's something that's funny. Report finds more than a third of California households are struggling to make ends meet. right? And this is like what it costs to live in. This is South LA County, Inland Empire. You have, okay, so you have LA County, Ventura County, San Bernardino County, Riverside County, Orange County, right? Those are all different counties there you can see on this screen there. And that's easy. I mean, you know why it's struggling there over there in that area? It's not so far as like San Bernardino. It's not as bad. Riverside, not as bad, but towards the coast, yeah, cost of living is way high. And you're making ends meet. You know why? Because cost of living costs so much. And you wonder why as well, is because it's the state. You blame the counties, you blame the state, right? They want to impose taxing. They spend, and then they wonder why it costs so much, because you're putting the burden on all of us to pay for your dumbass spending, and pay for illegals. You pay for all these different programs. It doesn't come free, right? It comes from somebody and from somewhere, so it comes from us, and then it gets passed on to us, so we got to pay for it, and that's why the cost of living costs so much. Then they try to give you bullshit like Green New Deal and gas is bad, right? So you got to buy an electric car. Oh shit, that's so damn expensive. But yet they're going to raise electricity rates in order to to really game you, right, out of more money. So you're stuck in the catch-22 because gas is bad. You got to buy an electric car, but yet they raise PG&E to make you pay even more. So it's like, damn if you don't, and they screw you over anyways. So yeah, cost of living costs way too much because supply and demand. They're letting the illegals flood the state, and they're paying for everything for illegals, and then the burden falls on us, which raises our cost of living, and that's why things are up. That's easy. How do we help that? Well, stop illegals. Stop all these extra programs. Stop forcing us with the Green New Deal. Stop forcing fast food minimum wage for $20 an hour, right? There's a lot of things they can stop, Stop with the stupid refining a special formulated gas that makes gas prices so high, and it's only in California type of thing. And watch how gas prices would go down and level out demand and still make money in California. Stop forcing us to do with the Green New Deal and let people have freedom of choice. And watch how costs of everything would go down and people would live nicely in California, right? And, if you stop with a lot of these things, it's so easy. But because you have Democrats that sit there and they spend unlimited, right? Or they act like they do. And then when it comes to find out, when there's no money coming in, because you're forcing people to move, businesses to close, and then you wonder, oh shit, there's no money. Now we can't spend no more. And then taxing is bad, but they'll still try to push it. And then it's like, oh shit, now we got to cut. Now you have an uproar in cuts. We got to cut workers. We got to cut this. And it's like, well, shit, if you weren't irresponsibly spending, you wouldn't have to do all these cuts. Dumbasses. So look at the same thing. It falls into this. Policymakers debate how to raise money to save Bay Area transit agencies as fiscal cliffs loom. Why? Why is that? Because the transit agencies are garbage. They suck. They barely upkeep their system in terms of maintenance and things like that. BART is shitty, right? Which is the Bay Area Transit train system. Muni is shitty, right? Caltrain, I'll give it to them. At least they could do further Bay Area and state travel, right? Who needs high-speed rail when you have Caltrain and Amtrak and all that? It's funny. And then they wonder why. But you keep raising rates. The fares.
I don't really like committing to
things. Keep raising fares. then
I'm scared.
you wonder why people don't
when
want to ride it.
Verizon announced that I could lock in a low price for 3 years, I mean, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
It's funny how that is.
Can you hear me now?
Come on.
Bay Area transit agencies are facing mounting budget deficits.
Why? Why are they having budget deficits? You know, it's funny how they having budget deficits. The only reason why they have a budget deficit is because they have low ridership. That's the only thing. They spend, but have low ridership, so the money doesn't come in for it. Why?
BART is facing structural deficits of up to $400 million in the next few years. SFMTA faces $300 million.
This is like ridiculous. Look at the numbers. 400 million, 300 million, 600 million. How? How is that?
Deficit starting in 2026, and Caltrain could be $600 million in the hole over the next decade.
New local advocacy groups are calling on state lawmakers to take action to save them.
ABC 7 News reporter Tim Johns joining us live in the news.
To save them, it's going to fall on us.
Hey, Larry, Kristen. Now, this is something we've been hearing for years now. Local advocacy groups, as well as some lawmakers, calling on Sacramento to step in. But with the state facing its own budget issues, I looked into what help could actually come for local transit agencies.
Nothing.
5 years after the start of the COVID pandemic, several Bay Area transportation agencies are facing huge budget deficits as ridership languishes behind pre-pandemic numbers. Agencies such as BART, Muni, and Caltrain are among the most impacted, with some facing fiscal shortfalls in the hundreds of millions of dollars. With state and federal pandemic funding running out, Spur, a San Francisco-based public policy nonprofit...
There you go. They relied on feds to back pay them. Right? Oh, you know, because everything's relied on COVID, right, money. And it's like, because what they did was during COVID, for example, they did like, oh, you know, free rides or whatever, because they relied on the feds to cover the fares and all that. And I don't know, they're just stupid with this whole rely on the feds to you know, back pay everything. And rather than budget for it, they wanted the feds to come in and back pay everything, which, you know, in the end doesn't pay, because that is not unlimited and it's not into perpetuity. And next thing you know, it's going to stop at some point, right? But they don't budget for that. They don't think about the future. They just think about, oh yeah, we're good, you know, and they'll spend on other bullshit that you don't really need to spend on, and do all this extra shit, and then they screw themselves because they didn't really budget for, you know, without Fed's help, you know, they didn't budget for that.
Hosted a virtual meeting Wednesday encouraging lawmakers to take action.
There is not much fat left to cut, I think, is the most important takeaway here when you really get into the guts of the agency operations.
Spur says without new money, transportation agencies around the Bay Area would likely...
My question is, how do you get that much into a deficit? All right, I mean, like I said, only low ridership, but how much of the ridership number really affect how much money the system gets, whether it's Muni, BART, whatever. And at the same time, what were they spending all that money on in order to be that deep in a deficit?
Face deep service cuts, a possibility State Senator Scott Wiener says has to be avoided.
That would be horrific for the Bay Area, for the people who rely
Scott Wiener's a dick.
on transit, for drivers, because it'll make...
I won't even say no pun intended, because he is a dick, man.
Wiener
Fucking
says
dumbass.
while lawmakers in Sacramento are well aware of the reality facing transit agencies, discussions are still ongoing as the state grapples with its own budget deficits. The state senator says he's co-authoring a new proposal that would ask Bay Area voters to pass a new sales tax measure to fund transportation agencies. A move that former BART director Deborah Allen believes is risky.
I have said all along for the last really 2 years, 3 years, there needs to be a plan B.
Allen says she recognizes that BART and other agencies can't cut hundreds of millions of dollars from their budgets without decimating their own services. But she does believe there are certain areas where smart cuts could save money.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
There are plenty of places to find savings at BART. You can start with the management, and you can start to reorganize the management. But instead of doing that, they've been growing the management. They're doing, for the last 4 years, they've done exactly the opposite of what they should have been doing.
With no guarantee of where an influx of new money might come from, Weiner believes the potential ballot measure is still the best option. But he knows that getting that accomplished...
Tax access, yeah, that's all they want to do.
It shows that this ballot measure is winnable. It won't be a landslide. It's not a slam dunk by any stretch.
You guys are a bunch of morons if you want to vote for approving an additional tax.
November 2026. But with some of these agencies running out of federal and state money well before that, what happens in the interim is still uncertain. I'm in the news.
Going to have to cut some services. Sorry to say. All right. No more taxes, period. Scott is out of touch. Yeah, I mean, come on. That's what they do. These Democrats, they're a bunch of dummies, right? All they do is, oh, we can solve this problem. Well, let's do a sales tax. And it's like, come on. How much you going to keep taxing and taxing and taxing and raising fares and all that? And then you wonder why people want to just drive, right, and not rely on the system. But you're trying to force people into the system because you keep raising the gas prices. You see how it all is all just, I hate to say it, all fucked up, the whole situation, California? Like they really screw you in every which way possible, whether it's gas, electricity, the transit system, the taxing of all that stuff. Hey, well, let's give it all illegals, right? And it's just funny how that is. But here it's like, hey, we can solve that problem. Just pass a tax. I mean, that's all it is. Taxing is the solution, right? Fuck out of here, Weiner. All right, dumbass. And even the comments say, yeah, print some money. We need more law enforcement on train. Yeah, good luck with that. Public transit is not safe enough. Well, that's the reason why. That's part of the reason why you have low ridership too, right? The systems are slow. I mean, when you look at the trains and the buses, slow. We want to get around a little bit faster. We don't want to deal with the bullshit on the trains and buses and all that, right? Get rid of the whole system so people, right? Yeah, that would be that high speed rail, right? I bet you very few people are gonna ride it once if it ever gets completed. I don't think they should even bother completing it. Yeah, like these agencies, they should really look at the books to see how they get so that deep into a deficit that you have to I mean, that's a lot of money when you think about how deep it is, right? They really got to get looked into. So, just saying, all right? I mean, it's just stupid shit, Low income by county. So now there's 100,000 years now considered low income in four Bay Area counties. So this is up in the Bay Area. I was pointing at LA County and Southern California area. And yes, cost of living in the Bay Area is expensive. I don't even live in the Bay Area anymore. I used to live in the outliers of Contra Costa County, and it's decent. Cost of living is decent. I live further out now in Central Valley, San Joaquin, and cost of living is lower. But the state as a whole is just cost of living is just high, in general. And again, because it costs so much with everything that they do in the state of California. That's why the cost of living is higher as you are closer to the coastal cities, because they, metropolitan cities and all that, like San Francisco, San Jose, it's just what it is. They have all these different programs and all these different substandard ways of going about things in general that really forces, whether it's the businesses and all that, to pass the cost on to people. People got to spend more, demand to live closer to metropolitan jobs and all that. This is kind of crazy. And it's like, so of course, very low supply, high demand, cost goes up higher, right, to pay for it. So it's just, the only way out is to just stop with the regulations, all these dumbass policies. And if you really come into the environment to really lower the cost of everything else will follow, right? Like I said, I mentioned about the gas, electricity, You know, you lower, and if you stop with the taxation of all that stuff, reformulation of gas, you do all this bullshit, you're trying to force people to do stuff, man, when those costs go down, everything else will stop. The program's got to stop with all this stuff for illegals, right? You know, why are we giving them a free ride on everything, including healthcare, right? And to me, it goes as far back as Obamacare. I think Obamacare is a bad thing, and was and is still a bad thing. That it needs to go because it's putting the burden on us, which raises the cost of healthcare, right? Yeah, there has to be a better way to go about it than putting it on us. So, you know, look at this. UPS they're cutting jobs. Of all things, right? I mean, as it was with UPS, Amazon, FedEx, all that, especially during pandemic. But they got a cut now? That's crazy. Well, Amazon's dominating everything right now. But it's just funny how that is, that they still got a cut, and for the services that they do, which is crazy to think about, you know. But yet, you can't blame things on like Trump, for example. This is all the Biden era fallout still, right? With the illegals, the expansion of jobs under false pretenses of COVID spending and all that, and you know, really jamming California, United States, into doing things that we shouldn't be in this position right now. That Trump's in here to clean up everything, right? Everybody wants immediate results, right? They want that immediate gratification and results, and shit like that to unravel, unwind takes time, you know? And people just think that, oh, because Trump says this thing, it should be happening right now at this moment. You know how long it took, you know, to build up what Biden did, right? And to now you got to unwind all that. You got to think about that, right? And that's what's happening in progress. So some results were immediate, like simple as closing the border. It stops people with the flow coming in, except for here. Look at this. 28 migrants charged with crossing into a new military southern border. Like they even try to come, they're so desperate, they even try to come to the militarized border. So pretty interesting that they still tried, right? Like, I don't know. But yeah, anyhow. It's funny how everything is happening, all these different random things. Alright. I mean, like, this is no surprise, right? She knew Carolyn Levitt excoriates Karine Jean-Pierre for engaging in cover of Biden. I mean, was that, like, no secret? You know what I'm saying? We'll talk about this probably in another video on that one. Let's see what else we got going on over here. Alright. Might just leave it at that, huh? Mass layoffs at UPS. Let's see, after slashing Amazon shipments. Okay. Yeah, it's just funny how that is. Like, that. You can't blame, you know, I mean, a lot of times when you overhire, that's a bad thing too. There's die-in protest against road safety budget cuts in downtown LA. Well, fuck, you know what I'm saying? Like, again, when they spin all this dumbass shit on, you know, this is another one I'm going to talk about in another video too, about sex trafficking legislation. We'll talk about that in another video. Alright. It's a fascinating take. But yeah, you know, when it comes to LA and they got to do all these cuts, they did it to themselves. Like everything, when they have budget problems, right, especially in a tune of like hundreds of millions, billions, whatever. Like, they got to really look at themselves that it was their fault, right? Because if they didn't overhire, or they didn't rely on Fed backfilling, or they didn't give away stuff to illegals, and they didn't frivolously spend, wink wink, pocket the money that's supposed to go to the homeless, all these other things, it's really themselves to blame, right? And when people move away, when you got to cut now because you don't have the money that no longer is coming in, hey, you know what? That's on you, right? So they got to cut because there's no longer just a free balling, free spending going on. And so the money drying up, and man, all of a sudden the tears start flowing. Can't blame nobody but yourselves, right? Yeah, so keep protesting, quote unquote, peacefully, which we know it doesn't happen that way. And yeah, it's gonna get you nowhere because it's gonna happen no matter what. It hurts because that's one thing that Democrats don't like to do, is they don't like to cut. They love to spend. They love to tax us for it. But man, when you can't do it no more, it hurts, huh? When you got to just really cut, because they just don't like cutting nothing, right? But they did it to themselves. LA did it to themselves. You notice there's all these big cities, right? Big blue cities, right? San Francisco, San Jose, Oakland, LA, San Diego. I mean, you go up to Seattle, go to Portland, New York, Chicago, Denver, right? You notice that they're all deficit spending, right? Deficit budget that they got to fix. And they all do the same exact thing, right? Spend for illegals. They don't care about the homeless, but the money goes somewhere. NGOs and all that they get kickbacks from. And then you wonder why they got to cut. It's like, well, shit. It's all on you guys. It's crazy. And then you got dumbass Scott Wiener say, oh, we'll just pass a sales tax to help pay for the fuck out of here, man. You know what I'm saying? So no one to blame but themselves. All right, which is funny. So with that, I think I'll call it a day. We'll catch up on other stuff though. I'm intrigued about this whole how Dems are really It's crazy how they're opposed to this sex trafficking bill that's being proposed in California by another Dem, right? But Dems are against it, which is kind of crazy. We'll talk about that, and maybe sometime down the road we'll talk about the Karine Jean-Pierre and maybe the first 100 days of the Trump in office deal and all that good stuff. All right, so comment down below, let me know what you think. This is where it's at. VC on YouTube, VC on Rumble. Other than that, thanks. I'll see you next one.